In this video, we're going to just pull down a WYSIWYG for our post editor. I'm going to use CKEditor. I find that WYSIWYGs are hit or miss and mostly miss. Um, I have issues with WYSIWYG editors that allow you to put in rich text, or at least allow the client to put in rich text, because clients tend to abuse them. See, I used to work at a web development company for a while, and we had we used the precursor to this FCKEditor. The owner actually changed the name because he's not English, and when he found out what FCK was an abbreviation for in English, he changed the name to CKEditor.
I can see where you do that.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so CKEditor is a nice little plugin or a little package that we can use in our application to make writing posts just a tad easier. This will also introduce us to a problem known as cross-site scripting, because essentially what CKEditor does is it allows you to put HTML into a form and then save it in a database and have that HTML rendered out on a page. Now, that might not immediately sound problematic, but we'll talk about the issues very shortly.
Actually, that very immediately sounded problematic. We don't want just anyone doing that.
Right, of course. But anyway, so I just wanted to use this video as just we're wrapping up the admin. We're just about done. We're just about to go into the front end. So I want to toss in a WYSIWYG, and I want to talk about XSS and how ASP.NET handles it and makes our site safer. So let's go ahead and download the WYSIWYG. I'm going to choose the standard package, and I'm going to say download CKEditor. That's simply going to download a zip. I'm going to open the zip up and open up CKEditor. And I'm going to move Chrome out of the way. Inside of this, you'll see this package. I'm going to pull down basically everything but samples. I don't really care about samples. So I'm going to move this across. I'm going to right-click on my scripts folder and go to Open Folder in File Explorer. And then I'm going to create another folder inside of this called CKEditor. And then I'm going to pull over every single file and folder except for samples. Seems straightforward enough.
That seems very easy.
All right. But as we know, importing a package does absolutely nothing in programming. We actually have to use it. The first step is we have to include it in our project. Remember the little show all files trick?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to do that here because I manually created this folder in Explorer.
Okay.
So I'm going to right-click on it and say Include in Project. We now have CKEditor in our project.
Excellent.
Now you might be wondering at this point, okay, so we need a script added into our project. So I'm just gonna go over to the bundle config and I'm gonna toss it into my post scripts. And I'm gonna tell you, no, please don't do that. The reason is that CKEditor is very particular about loading scripts. In fact, it loads more scripts after you load its main script, which I personally find obnoxious, but it's just how it is.
All right, so we have to live with that. So what do we do?
Well, the reason why we can't add it to the bundle is because it loads external scripts and it expects those scripts to be in particular directories. When we are in development mode, adding it to a bundle is going to make zero difference. When we go to production, however, the relative path to the minified and bundled JavaScript changes and thus breaks all of the CKEditor loading paths. So to fix it, we have to include CKEditor.js directly into one of our views.
Alrighty, how are we going to do that?
Well, we're going to open up areas, admin, views, posts, form.cshtml. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom to section scripts, and we're simply going to say script source equals scripts CKEditor CKEditor.js.
That seemed pretty straightforward.
Yep. So now that we have CKEditor on our page, I'm going to go ahead and write another script that will actually tell CKEditor to load itself. And that's simply going to be CKEditor.replace content. What's content? Content is the ID of the text area that I created all the way at the top of the file right here on line 30. since that's the idea of this text editor, I'm going to have CKEditor effectively hijack the text editor and turn it into basically a WYSIWYG.
All right, that makes sense. I'm good.
So I'm going to hit F6, open up my browser window, refresh, although it's not going to do anything because I didn't change anything on the index page. And then I'm going to hit edit.
And now we got a WYSIWYG.
Indeed. So this is really cool. We can do this, and then we can do that, and then we can like throw in like where's our headers? Here we go. Heading 2. We can do that, and whoa, and hey, and bleh, and so on and so on. This is so cool and awesome and everything. And what do you think happens when I hit update post?
It breaks.
It does break. The error we get is a potentially dangerous request.form value is detected from the client. Now, this confuses so many people that if I... Like, seriously, I'm not even kidding. Watch this.
Yep, it's confused a lot of people.
You know what's funny, though? It tells you exactly how to fix it inside of the... Oh, no, they changed the error message. It used to tell you exactly how to fix it inside of the description, which is why it was so funny that so many people have had that problem. But they must have changed it.
But it does still at least tell you what's going on.
Yes. The problem is that ASP.NET has detected data in the request that's potentially dangerous because it might include HTML markup or scripts. The data might represent an attempt to compromise the security of your application, such as
a cross-site scripting attack.
Uh-huh. Then it goes on to say, if this type of input is appropriate for your application, you can include code in a web page to explicitly allow it. And you can go for more information. I haven't actually read this yet. Let's see what it says. It should tell you exactly what I'm about to tell you. Just in a lot more words. Okay.
They do like their words.
Yeah, they're Microsoft. What do you expect? Anyway, cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting happens when I create a website allows me to add content into it, and I decide to add HTML into it instead. And then when the website goes to actually show the content that I added, it blindly prints out whatever I added without any form of sanitation.
Okie dokie.
Now, the funny thing about it is that ASP.NET MVC actually prevents this from happening. For example, if I go to users and I edited a person and I changed his name to script alert hi, if I go ahead and update user, oh right, it won't let me because of the derp. Yeah, well, there's two forms of security, let's just say. The first form of security is that it's not even going to let me post the data. See, I can't even post it post anymore because CKEditor is automatically adding in those p tags.
Yep.
And it's detecting them and it's rejecting the request. But it's important to understand that ASP.NET MVC actually is ridiculously, insanely, stupidly smart about cross-site scripting attacks already without having this horrible, ridiculous input validation. What I mean is, if we look at our Razor code, stuff like, you see how right here, let's go into our users. You see right here, it's edit user model username, and I'm printing out the username.
Yep.
In Razor, this is automatically escaped. What do I mean by escaped? Well, I mean that even if model.username was actual HTML code, it would effectively be rendered harmless by ASP.NET MVC automatically.
That's pretty smart.
Yep. Everything in Razor is by default escaped. The only way to make it not escaped is to use a special class or use a special helper called html.raw. html.raw makes it so it doesn't escape the content and allows you to insert HTML into a string and have it be printed out as HTML. Obviously, you should only use html.raw in cases where you know for a fact that the content is secure.
Okie dokie.
Otherwise, you will be allowing people to insert arbitrary HTML and JavaScript and CSS onto your website. Okay, so that was just a lot of theory about what's going on here and why we get this error. How do we make it so that ASP.NET MVC stops with this horrible, annoying error? I find this so annoying because it's like you already handle cross-site scripting attacks by default. Why are you adding on top of that I can't even put in anything that even looks like HTML? Like, really? I feel strongly about this, can't you tell? I take that as a yes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this.
I did it again.
Okay, so I'm going to fix this. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to go into the controller, in my posts controller. I'm going to scroll down to my form post action, and I'm going to add a new action filter to it. The action filter is called validate input. And I'm going to pass in false. That will allow me to post HTML to my posts. Just wait a few seconds because the app server is restarting. Let's try that again. So let's come in here. Let's add in a couple paragraphs. Let's put in some bold. Let's toss in a header. And let's update post. Right? Now let's look in our database. If I go to posts, look at that.
We got her in there.
Yep. So now the question is, how do I display the post? Well, we're not going to actually be displaying the posts in the back end. We're going to be only displaying those in the front end. But it comes down to the HTML.raw. HTML.raw will allow us to display raw HTML and not have Razor automatically encode it for us. Sound good?
That does sound good.
So I think this pretty much wraps up our backend. We have our users that we can create, reset passwords, and delete and edit, which is really fancy, and add roles to, which is even more fancy. Remember our awesome role editor?
Yeah, I love that thing.
Yep. And then we can create posts. So we can create posts, we can put in arbitrary HTML into them with our WYSIWYG, we can assign tags, we have validation, that's all cool. We can trash posts and optionally restore them later down the road. We can fully delete posts. We can add tags, and we can do just a whole bunch of really fun, awesome things.
We are building an awesome blog.
Indeed. So I think this pretty much wraps up the discussion about the backend. There's not a whole lot more to say. Other than, I guess, we will be jumping into the front end. Also, notice how like sometimes when I delete the posts, they start sorting differently. The reason of that, don't freak out, it's because I set all their timestamps to now earlier, and they all have the same created at, which is what I'm sorting by. So it's not a bug.
Yeah, that's just, they're all the same, so.
Yeah, it gets confused. So that's the backend. I guess that's it after we commit.
All right, let's commit, and I'm all excited about going to the front end.
Awesome. Also note how big CKEditor is.
Wow. Okay, yeah, we did a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, look how many millions of lines of code we wrote. Awesome. So we'll see you guys in the next video.